Now we'll create the table and chair. I'm going to hide the walls and floor to minimize my CPU usage and also to be able to navigate around the viewport without having to look through a wall. To do so, I'll marquee select all the geometry, and I'm going to go to the channel box. At the bottom of the channel box is the layer window. There are a series of 4 white and blue icons. The one furthest to the right, which appears to be a white plane with a blue sphere. If I were to click on that with my element selected, it puts it on a new layer and hides the content for me. I'll double click on the word layer 1 and I'll name it walls, floor, and save. Now I'll click off, hide the geometry, and I'll add a new layer. I could click on that icon again if I chose, or to the one directly to the left of it. I'll double click on it and we'll call it furnishings. I'm going to start with the polygon cube to make the tabletop. Holding down the space bar, I'll go to create polygon primitives, cube, and I'll drag the footprint of the tabletop I want. Let go and then drag up to give it some thickness. I'll hit F on the keyboard to zoom in on it, and I'm going to put it up to give it some height before I put the legs. I'll turn my layer on with my walls and floor, and I'll go to the orthographic view, and I'll just pick a height that looks good. And now I'm going to go to my top view, and I'll hit F on the keyboard to zoom in on it. Now, much the same the way we created the Boolean modeling surfaces. I can create a polygon and make the leg shape that way, or I can duplicate the tabletop. I'll hit Command D, and I'll get my scale tool, and I'll start to reduce this to the thickness of the table leg I want. I'll hit W, and I'll move it into position. I'm now going to go to my perspective view because I want to give that some length. I'll turn off the walls and floor, and I'll hit F on the keyboard, and I'll hit 4. And now I can see there is that piece that will make my leg. I'm going to rotate so I'm looking down under the surface of the table. And I'm going to right click and choose face. Now I'll select the face that I want to move down to the surface of where the floor would be. When you roll your cursor over a polygon face, you'll see that it's red until you select it, and then once you do it turns brown. I've selected the face will allow me to pull down on the y-axis and give it the length I want. Returning to an orthographic view, I'll drag on the y-axis till it comes down to the z-axis in my side view. I could have done this in my orthographic front as well. Returning to my perspective view, I can now see I have the first leg created. Now I'm going to go back to my object mode by right-clicking on the leg and choosing object mode, and I'm going to return to the top view. With one leg in position now, I can easily duplicate and move the duplicates into position. I'll hit Command D, and I'll drag the second leg over to the right. I'll shift select both, hit Command D, and I'll drag those to the other side of the table. Returning to the perspective view, I now have the table I want.